Welcome to Inspiring Possible. I'm Christy Pennison, former stuck person turned therapist and dream consultant. Are you feeling stuck, overwhelmed, uncertain, or just need a little inspiration? Then I want to help you gain the clarity, confidence, and courage to create possibilities and live a life you love. Because folks, life's too short to be miserable. Welcome back, Inspiring Possible listeners. So have you ever thought of something along the lines of, I should have gone with my gut. I knew that was going to happen. How do I end up in the same fill in the blank situation? And in that moment, you knew that there was something inside of you that was trying to tell you what to do. And actually, before we push the record button, me and my guest today were just talking about this because I feel like there's something in my gut right now that's screaming at me. But my logical side says, oh, I don't know about that. Are you sure? Well, if this is something that resonates you already, then you have come to the right place today. And I'm so glad that you are joining us again here on the Inspiring Possible podcast. And if it's your first time, welcome. I think this is actually going to be an awesome conversation for you to start getting to know us a little bit more by listening. But I have the privilege and honor to have a special guest today, Jenn Cohen, who is an intuitive consultant. And she is somebody that helps you tap into not only your inner truth, but your inner guide. And folks, if y'all have been on this podcast before or listened to some of these interviews, you know that you're going to be in a relationship with yourself for quite a long time. And you're the one that is stuck with you. You didn't get to choose you, okay? And so being able to listen to your inner self is something that's kind of challenging. But guess what? We have an expert on this today who's going to help you find your way to challenge your challenge. They might challenge you to learn how to channel a little bit more of that intuitive side of yourself. So welcome, Jenn, to the podcast.
Hi, it's so good to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. So Jenn, I'm really excited about this conversation because as we were talking about earlier, I will sometimes ignore what I feel is maybe something that's like screaming at me that you shouldn't do this, or I really feel like you should do this, or just to be able to kind of go with that inner nudging, so to speak. So tell me how it came to be that you have become this guide to help other people learn how to tap into this.
Sure. First of all, you're not alone. We all experience this. And even if you're tapped into your intuition, um, an expert at tapping into your intuition, you still go through it. It just gets a little bit easier to identify and to really see where the fear is coming in. So we can definitely go into that a little bit more later if you want to dive into what you're.
You're welcome to use me as a guinea pig if you want.
Okay,
Jenn.
okay, perfect. For me, the shift in my life really came at the age of 20. My dad passed suddenly, and I was just starting my junior year of college. I was completely overwhelmed. The evening of his funeral, I was lying on my parents' bed on his side of the bed, and it was complete darkness. And I was just kind of calling out to God, just like, what am I supposed to do now? And again, complete darkness. The light next to the bedside table just went on and off and on and off. And I said, Dad, is that you? And the light just went on and off and on and off. And there was just a real peace that transpired in my body. And it was a peace that I had never known before. And I was like, that's interesting. And it was again, just a knowing. There was no question attached to it. There was no circuit break, there was no power outage in the neighborhood. And I went back up to school and I continued to get these signs with street lights that I would walk under. And to, people I'd be walking with, they'd just be like, oh, that's a street light that flickered. And to me, it was just a knowing, oh, my dad is here watching and walking with me. Through the stages of grief, as a 20-year-old, I really held on to the anger portion of that process. And in that anger, because of all the milestones, that you think of as a girl that you want to have with your father. And I was just angry that he had left so soon. I decided that he was going to take care of my career from the other side. And I had a pact with him and I said, here you go. You're taking that. I'm not going to worry about this. You're going to protect me from where you are. And I can just kind of let that go. And I truly believed that. And he accepted it willingly. He was, just kind of like, no problem, little girl. Yeah, I got you, and you don't have to worry about this. Didn't mean that there were roadblocks along the way, but it meant that I knew that he was going to put things in my path for me to experience and to grow and to have a life in a profession that I was able to take care of myself. And so in that moment, I didn't really realize how much I was tapping into my intuition. I was tapping into this higher, um, source that was able to be a guiding light for me and that was able to free up my brain. And again, everyone knows this, two hemispheres of the brain, but the left side of the brain, the critical mind, just was completely shut down by this knowing. And the right side of our brain is where the intuition lives, where creativity lives, where imagination lives. And it was just like, no, you really don't have a say in poo-pooing this because
Yeah.
we know that this spiritual side, this side of the knowing, this intuitive side has this handled. And they did. I spent 27 years in the entertainment industry, kind of climbed the corporate ladder. And when it was time for me to go, my dad came in very clearly, and my intuition guided me to that to start this portion of my life, which has been absolutely gratifying. It is exactly where I'm supposed to be. And I'm doing my life's work.
Yeah. What a switch too, right? From entertainment industry and then kind of saying, okay, this is really maybe not necessarily fulfilling me in the way it used to, or maybe there's this conflict going on, or there's something in my gut that's saying maybe this time has came to an end
Mhm.
and there is something else waiting for me. So let's talk about that for a second, because I'm sure you worked with a lot of people that are seeking you out because they're like, I want to learn how to be a little bit more in touch with that inner knowing. What are the things that you kind of help people consider, or maybe things that you would suggest they do to just learn how to lean into this a little bit more in
Sure.
their life?
Yeah, and what's great about your intuition is it's probably the easiest path of most things that you're going to do in order to tap into. It's all about what you love to do. It's all about your highest vibration. It's all about experiencing what brings you joy. And those things, while they seem simple, can be very hard from how we're programmed. Hard work pays off. Nothing comes easy. Those kind of repetitive things that when we're growing up are really stuck in our brain. And it's this unraveling of those. And so the first thing I do is with clients, and again, certain clients are at different um, places on their journey, but I've had people, ask, do I even have intuition? And you absolutely do, and there's an awareness there. And so when you are aware of what we commonly refer to as our sixth sense, which I think is really our first sense. When we're born, we might not have, the best eyesight. In fact, I think you can't really see when you're first born, but you know your mother's there. To cry. You know that you need to eat, but that's an intuitive sense, and that's your first sense. And so it's coming back to a place where you're not thinking your sixth sense is I see dead people and thinking of it as a really scary thing to tap into, but it is a tool that you have that you were born with. And I almost like to think of it as, when you buy a car and maybe it's like even, a couple months into having that car or even a year and you find a new feature on the car and you're like, oh my God, that feature's been there all along. That makes my driving so much more pleasurable, so much more easy. It's like that. It's been built into you all along. And once you're able to tap into it, it's like a muscle, just like working out any other muscle. The more that you give it attention, the more that you practice with it, the more it becomes this super power in your life. And so, just to give you a few more examples of the way to tap into intuition is if you like nature, if you like being outside, if you like being in the ocean or the mountains, or, just barefoot on the grass, that is a perfect way just to start. And you can see from, if you work in an office space or if you're in a space that feels, that you're feeling anxiety in. When you walk outside, notice that shift. Notice that it's a much more neutral setting. Notice that you're able to breathe in a little bit easier. And that's your body telling you, okay, we're recalibrating to our intuitive state.
Yeah, listen, I'm a sucker for nature, and I feel like every time that I especially go I love national parks and being able to explore those, and you're right, I feel like when I'm in those spaces, because it's more of a neutral more natural space too, I feel that I can connect a little bit more to the spiritual side of me, honestly, and it brings a lot of peace. And I appreciate you sharing your story, even earlier about your dad and kind of like that knowing of like, this is his presence here with me. To others, it may not make sense, or they may just say, yeah, that's a flickering light on the street. But it's how do you start to tap into this yeah, inner knowing that maybe it can't be explained or rationalized, like you said, those 2 parts of our brain, but if you trust it, how it can really guide you. And actually, there was a guest that we had on earlier, a few episodes prior, and we were talking about this and, like, how do you cultivate that sense of just bringing more awareness to that side of you? Because I think you said it was like a muscle, and so it's how can we utilize that muscle a little bit more? So, just with that's one way, I guess, to kinda just maybe notice how you're shifting differently. What are some other ways that you help people, again, just becoming more aware
Yeah,
of this side of them?
sure. It's not our responsibility to hunt down our intuition. It's it's
Okay.
it's our responsibility to put ourselves in a place to hear it.
Ooh, I
So,
love this, yes.
yeah, so that's where the nature part of it comes in. And then also it's putting yourself in a receptive mode. So let's say that you find yourself at the office and you're at work and you've just got an email that really has touched a nerve. And so you can go one of two ways. You can dive into that email and tappity tap and get back at that person, stew on it, and have that critical mindset of I'm going to make this right. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna react rather than respond. Or what we can do is we can interrupt that pattern. We can get up. We can walk. We can look out a window if we can't get outside and see, spaciousness. It's again creating that spaciousness. And then it's activating your awareness. It's breath. Breath is huge. Going into the breath of, just inhaling and you can exhale with an audible sigh. And then it's being able to then return to where you were with fresh space, and you can get curious then, and you can say, mentally, you can say, my head says XYZ, my heart says XYZ. And I can kind of walk you through that practice with what you're, thinking about right now. But the head is really, it's there to protect you. It's it's living in kind of this fight or flight. And it organizes in, again, there's many, many benefits to the left side of our brain. Don't get me wrong there. I'm just talking about in what it's trying to do with our intuitive side, which is, um, it's trying to continue this pattern that has kept you safe in your life for all this
Yeah.
time. And so when we can start to break that pattern and say, okay, head, I hear you. I appreciate what you're saying. I know you're trying to keep me safe. Let me just go into my heart brain and see what's trying to communicate there. And usually when our brain is, really in that critical stage, you know this, your shoulders are up, you're anxious, you're writing, there's this fearful constrictedness. And then when you go into your heart and you hear what your heart is saying, there's this lowering of the shoulders, there's a spaciousness, there's just an allowing that really feels like, ah, that feels so much better. And
Mhm.
that's then where your intuition has come online. And you do need to be pretty observant there because our patterns and that part of our brain, the left side, really wants to keep you safe. So they'll come on quickly and try and be like, no, 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 no. That's not it. That's not it. That's superstition. That's irresponsible. That's not what has kept you safe up until this point. And so that's the balance. But it's just kind of catching those moments.
Yeah. Well, yeah, let's do this exercise though. If you
Yeah,
want to, we can go
yeah.
for it. And then if you're listening, you can follow along with this exercise as well. Maybe if you're not necessarily in a comfortable space where you can do this, then definitely pause and come back later and try this exercise as well. Because Jen, as you were talking about this, there's always things that come up for me as somebody's sharing what how they lead people through this. And I can think of a time in my life before we do this exercise, where I was in a place where we were supposed to go. I went to this, like, I guess it was more of like a spiritual school, I guess is the best way to explain it, in my very young early days. And we were gonna go do these mission trips, okay, in a different part of the world, and we didn't know where it was gonna be. We just knew that we were gonna go somewhere. And our instructors, for this kind of God, it was more of a, I guess, biblical God, Christianity type of school. But one of the exercises that they try to tell us to do was they're like, "We want you to just go out somewhere, and we really want you to seek direction as to where you feel that you are gonna be going." And so that way, when we tell you where we're going, that you feel a clarity and a peace
Hmm.
about this place that you're gonna be going for the next few months, okay? And I mean, I was really young. I was like maybe was I 19? Maybe 18, 19. And so I can vividly remember going up into a space, kind of like you said, just I can't hunt it down, but I'm just trying to remain open to receive whatever it is that's going to come to me. And not that I definitely needed to know exactly where we're going, but I remember saying just into like inside of me a prayer that said like, please just let me know where I should go because I wanna feel very certain about where we're going. And I'm telling you, it's the craziest thing ever, Jen, because we could have went anywhere. Like, literally, the world, you could go anywhere. And so I remember one thing is I picked up this magazine, and in one of the covers, it said Kenya or something, and I'm like, "Oh, this is very interesting, but I'm just gonna put this in my heart and pay attention to it." And then randomly, again, never been to any of these places in my life. I was somewhere else and I was just trying to remain open, and this other country came to mind. Well, they didn't tell us that there was going to maybe be an opportunity for one of the places to actually be two places that you're going to go, and the other was going to be one country. And so I remember thinking, well, this is strange. I noticed this Kenya magazine, but then for some other reason, Uganda was coming to my mind. Like, never been to Uganda in my life. Okay. And we come back that evening where they're going to announce the trips. Okay. And literally, Jen, when they announced where the possibilities are going, one of them was Kenya and Uganda. And then the other thing was Malaysia. I'm like, there is no other way that I can make sense of any of this because my logical brain, it doesn't make sense.
Right.
Like, how did you just randomly feel called that these places. And in hindsight, I think that my intuition was screaming so loudly, or, I feel it was spiritual. I was feeling
Mhm.
spiritually led
Yeah,
in that moment
yeah.
because I was also just had gotten in this newfound relationship. Okay. That I met this guy while I was on this school. And if I wasn't listening to my intuition in that moment, I would have felt called to go to the same place as he was going, right? Because I didn't want to separate. I mean, I'm young and in love, you
Yeah,
know what I mean?
exactly,
And I want to
exactly.
follow him. I mean, I
Mhm.
don't want to be separated him for the next few months because this is new love and I'm excited. And but he was not feeling called to the same place. But if I hadn't allowed myself to just have that moment, or at least the leaders hadn't given us permission to go and really seek out and gain clarity about where we were feeling led to. And not everybody like knew exactly where they wanted to go. Some people still didn't have that clarity in that moment. But when you were telling about just giving that space to be open and how that can lead and help guide you along the path, I that's the story that came up in my mind
That's
about that. Yeah.
beautiful. That's it. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
1,000%, and it's not a coincidence. You
Yeah.
know?
No. I felt
That's
like I was supposed to be there in that
yeah,
time, right?
yeah,
And, it's hard to explain, I think, intuition to people because in the moment, you logically maybe even questioning your own self. Like you said,
sure.
that fight or flight, that felt safety, like, you may be thinking, "Okay, well, if you make this decision, it could have this repercussion over here," or that may not be. That's going to cause a lot of disruption, or
Yeah,
you may not know what do you mean you want to leave your job in this industry where you've gotten all the way up here? Like, what about the financial concerns? So, like, the logical, the safety, the part of your brain that's like, keep yourself safe, is screaming at you to continue to do that. But your intuition is sometimes calling you into a place of unknown or uncertainty. And that's where it's trying to trust it. But, anyways,
oh,
that's my little
well,
storytelling.
no, I
Let's do
loved
this
it.
exercise.
I
Yeah.
loved it, and, so many people would have listened to, "But my boyfriend's here," and that's safety,
Mhm.
and then that's, down the road, "What happens if I don't do this?" Intuition lives in the present moment. It doesn't live in the past or the future, anxiety or worry, and when you go into that, you know that you've left your intuition, and so that
Yeah.
was beautiful how you said that,
Yeah. Well, and
and
I've
then
also had experiences, Jen, where I've really felt strongly I'm supposed to do something and I didn't do it.
uh-huh.
And I don't know if you've had this,
Mhm.
okay,
Sure.
where I remember it was just last week, I was standing in line at the randomest place at the donut shop of all places. And there was something within me, and I'm just going to share my stuff with y'all folks, okay? Is there was something within me that says you really need to get that person in front of you's stuff. But Jen, guess what? I didn't because I was like, "Oh, what if I don't wanna offend that
Yeah.
person. I don't wanna, like, make them feel like whatever that might be awkward for them." And, that sat with me for, like, half of the day
Mhm.
because I really felt like I abandoned almost or rejected what I really felt like I was supposed to do. And so I do think there's this other side of it too that, like, sometimes if you don't always follow it, then there can be that kinda almost knowing like, "Man, I missed that opportunity, and that's what I should have done," you know?
Yeah, yeah, and, here's what I'll say is that opportunity is gonna present itself to you again.
Oh,
There's
yay, thank you.
it absolutely
Mm,
will. Absolutely
yeah.
will. Yeah, yeah, and that's, intuition doesn't often get loud, but it does repeat itself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's good to know.
yeah,
We're writing this down. Alright, well,
yeah,
let's do this exercise. I
yeah.
just felt led to speaking of intuition, I felt called to share
Uh,
that story,
no,
so
I'm so glad you did. I'm so glad you did. Okay, so go ahead and think about, and if you want to share it out loud, the decision that you're kind of struggling with.
Mm. I would say it's a choice about what to do. I'll kinda be vague about it, but it's
Mhm.
about choice about how to handle a situation that may have some conflict around it.
Okay.
I know that's very vague, but that's what
Yeah,
I'll that's what I'll
that's
share.
okay. That's okay. So you're just going to take, you can do it with your pen, you can do it out loud, just depending how much you want to share. But you're just going to pick up the side of one of what you would do. So you're just going to decide, okay, I'm going to go this way, um,
Okay.
and go ahead and have. You can envision the left side of your brain. You can just dump everything that your brain is telling you about this, and all the fear, everything that's going to happen if you decide to move forward in the way that you're thinking about.
Okay. So if
And
I feel like I'm going with what I'm feeling like I should do versus what there's those 2 things because and
yeah,
sometimes it's hard. I don't know if, as we're doing this exercise, to
mhm,
distinguish what is my what is my left side of my brain or what is actually
yeah.
my gut. So, but I'm gonna try to
So
do this.
so
So,
just dump everything. So
okay.
don't even think left side, right side. Just dump everything that you're thinking about this decision, like, down. And just completely, it's almost like whatever's in your head, write it down, think about it, put it down, and then when that feels complete, kinda let me know. And this can be done any time of the day. This can be done audibly. This can be done written. This can be done with someone that you trust. Can be done anywhere. Can be done in nature. Can be done at your desk at work.
Okay. I got a few things and I probably
Okay.
could go on for a little while on this, but I got some stuff down.
Okay, great. And then just for time's sake, we'll go into the next part of the exercise. And so if you wrote it down, and we won't do this here, but you would speak it out loud. You would just kind of go down your list, speak it out loud. If you've already spoken out loud, you're good there. And then just go ahead and like kind of shake your hands like that. You can shake your legs if you possible. If you
We're
are able.
shaking over here, guys, for
Yep.
those of y'all that are listening
Yeah.
and can't see us.
Just kind of shaking that off. And then we're just going to take a deep inhale in through the nose and then just kind of have this audible sigh. And you're just going to kind of imagine this light from the very top of your head, just kind of sliding down through your throat and into your heart. So you just inhale in and then exhale that audible sigh. And then you kind of just have this light coming down into your heart. And we'll do it one more time. Go ahead and do it on your own. Don't follow my breath. And when you're ready, and you can do that breath as many times as you feel, until you kind of feel it in your heart center. And you can even place your hand there. And then you can go back to your writing and you can say, "My heart says," and you can just write down what you're getting from your heart around that situation. And if there's any kind of questions that are coming up in that, then we'll go back and repeat the exercise because a lot of times, the more that we stay in that heart center, if we haven't practiced this a bit, the sneaky brain will just come in and start to try and discount what you're saying. So you would just kind of repeat that exercise, one more time, one or two more times, and you'll get very, very clear on what your intuition is trying to tell you.
Yeah, I love that. Well, and I'm glad that you said you might have to repeat this a few times, right? To where and the process that you just walked us through, just for those listening that may have not went through it, and just to clarify, making sure I'm understanding right, it's really number one, identifying the issue, being able to speak it out, whatever it is that's on your heart or that you're conflicted about, and or that you're really seeking clarity on. To just speak it out, whether it be with somebody else, whether it be it to yourself, whether it be writing it down, and then giving yourself the opportunity to say, what are all the things that may be holding me back from being able to move forward in this? What are my fears? What are my concerns? Being able to give yourself that opportunity to breathe through visualizing that light coming within you. And then being able to say, what do I feel that my heart is saying in this moment? And I can imagine that as you do this a few times, you are gonna get clear because I think at the beginning, and you tell me if this is right, Jen, or not,
Hmm.
but for me, when I'm doing this exercise, it's interesting because there's a dichotomy sometimes to situations, right? And you're like, is is my heart telling me this or is it telling me this? And why is it telling me this, right?
Hmm.
So in my situation, there's this conflict that's kind of happening right now that I'm really trying to seek a clarity of what the resolution should be
Mhm.
with an individual. And so I put all the different things sets down as far as for me that I have concerns about. Like I'm concerned if I make this choice, it would go this way. If I don't make this choice, it's going to go this way. I like all the different things of how it could or could not go, which are all again just thoughts about what could happen in the future, but also what's happening now that's
Mhm.
leading me to this point of why I feel that I need to make a decision about what's gonna happen next, okay? And I
Yeah.
have some of that power to say what's gonna happen next, okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
And but I take that responsibility very seriously because I also know it has a lot of different far-reaching potential consequences. And so what I loved about this is that my heart was saying, like, I really don't want this regarding the resolution of this conflict. But for the good of maybe other people, I want this. And so it's like, do you see what I'm saying? Like, it's kind of two
Mhm.
things. But I'm wondering if I did this a few times and maybe even with somebody else that has to share in this decision making, like you said, you could do this with another person,
Mhm.
getting clarity together so that it's not just your intuition. And do you find this, Jen, when you're having to make a group decision that sometimes intuitions are linking up? People feel sometimes the same thing, but they're also struggling and wrestling and trying to have the logical brain like give different options.
Yeah, and, this is such a good question because you want to do this exercise with someone of equal or higher vibration. You don't wanna
Okay.
do it with someone that has a lower vibration, and you know that. You know that feeling when you walk into a room and you're like, "Oh god, someone's having a bad day." Or you can feel that, and if you can't feel that, then I would err on not, doing this exercise with someone else. But, your intuition is leading you probably to that person. And if there is
Mhm.
a question about should I be doing with that person, it's probably gonna be a no. Because when you're in your intuition, when you're in your knowing, there isn't a question attached. Knowledge doesn't operate in language. We give language to that. And so for you, where if we were doing this exercise, privately one on one, I would start to guide you less away from how this is going to be affecting others and much more towards your intuitive knowing.
Yeah.
And that's where the brain is really coming in and saying, no, this is new. This isn't how we operate. We're keeping you protected. We're keeping you safe. Where intuition has no reason to keep you protected. It's
Yeah.
not here for smallness. And so that's where we would continue with this exercise because the brain dump is everything and everything else. Your heart is purely driving you in this moment to move forward in a direction, and it might not be the end all be all resolution, but it's going to put you on the path to get to that resolution.
Yeah. Well, and I love how you said like knowing isn't gonna be a question, right? Like it's just
Mhm.
gonna be a it's gonna be a knowing, right?
Yeah.
And I think it is hard to strip away this because I can even think about my protective factors that even when we're discussing this issue, right? What's coming up for me is you're right. So many times I think through a lot of things because I think about how is this impact going to ripple into
Mhm.
other people's lives, right? And it's
Yeah.
part of my role and my job and it's not just about like, okay, what does Christy want? But like if this decision is made in this way or if we're gonna make this choice, how is this gonna far reach everybody, right? And what are the different ways? And so that's my logical brain trying to do my little pro con cost benefit analysis.
Mhm.
But what I'm hearing you say is that really honestly, part of this exercise is to strip away all of that anyways, because you can pro con all the day long of why this maybe makes sense and why it doesn't make sense. But what you're really trying to get to is where do I feel like I'm being led and how do I trust that even without knowing how this could all play out?
Yeah, and I'll go back to your
Right.
Kenya
Yeah.
example. Like, that is so perfect, and
Mhm.
while you're trying to make this decision, that's what I would kind of have, that feeling in the back of your head. Like,
Yeah.
because you didn't have the resistance that you're talking about when you just released and allowed and received that
Yeah,
message.
and I think this is a struggle for a lot of people is the released and receiving. And I know it is for me on some days.
Mhm.
And, we could probably spend both me and you the next several hours talking about maybe experiences we've had where you can kind of look back and say that was really my intuition guiding me. And I'm glad it did because now I can see the results of that intuition, and being guided. But but I find that when I can do this more, which it takes you have to be in a space to receive, right?
Yeah.
And if you're busy or you're just running through life, that's not always a space to receive. But Jen, I love that we're having this conversation today because the more I really do step out and just say, okay, let me just trust, let me figure out what am feeling called in this moment. It's never steered me in a wrong direction.
Right.
I may have not liked the immediate response because I'm not saying that sometimes this intuition doesn't come with challenges or things that might come up. You're like, oh, well, this is unpleasant, but it's always led me to where I felt like I was supposed to be. And sometimes it's just taking that pause to know that I am where I'm supposed to be. And if I continue to allow myself to receive in those moments, then it's definitely more aligned than trying to just figure it out through the logic, the head, the head part.
Absolutely. And another quick tool for you and your audience is gratitude. And we've heard that over and over again. But being able to really feel in your heart, I'm so grateful for my pet, my children, my home, this flower, whatever it is. But like when you're able to really feel into that gratitude, that's kind of the entryway into your intuition as well. It really gets like, oh, that's the feeling. That's the feeling that I get when I'm tapped in with my intuition. It's just this real ease of life rather than, focusing on what's going wrong. And when we do that, we're in a different part of our brain than truly the present moment. And when you're in the present moment, you think about it like you're there right now. Unless there's a lion about to attack you or a car coming at you, you're safe. You're safe. It's when our mind just really starts to think about the catastrophes that we get out of that. And so those are
Yeah.
just a couple tools. Just there's so many, but
I know, I know. We
yeah,
may have
we
to
have
do a
enough
part 2
time.
at some point because there is so many things, and I mean, it's even as we're talking, it's bringing up a lot of things for me, and I think, what I've found because, this podcast is Inspiring Possible, when you can lean more into that intuitive side of you, then you really can be able to create some things that maybe you didn't even realize. Like, I'm thinking about your dad and your story about your dad, right, and him leading you. I'm sure in that entertainment career, if we really had time to dive deep in that, like, there's probably some cool stories in that, right?
Yeah,
And that
absolutely.
feeling, that knowing of feeling I'm almost held or taken care of, what a peace,
Yeah.
And I'm just curious, Jen, before we wrap up today, like, what are some
Mhm.
of the things with the people that you've worked with that as they've done this process more and they've really learn to trust themselves and what they're feeling led to do and take peace in that knowing, what's the other side that the transformation you see people go through as they're
Mhm.
learning to tap into this more?
It's just the best. I mean, again, it's just like it lights me up, but just tactically some of the things, conflict resolution is a huge, huge one. Reuniting with family members that have, been in conflict for a really long time. That's been something that's been just very gratifying. Purpose. I mean, doesn't really get much better than that when someone can find their purpose and start moving in that direction. Financial windfalls, a lot of healing from past trauma, and clarity around again purpose, but like in job spaces as well. Again, conflict resolution comes in there, but just clarity where I'm in a job that pays the rent. I need to stay in it, but it's just not fulfilling me. There's something in the space that you're in right now that is trying to lead you there. And the
Mhm.
fact that you're
Yeah.
aware of that. And so being able to become aware of that and to move forward in that way, those are just some moves, big moves, like physically home moves and getting into a space that has been calling people. Yeah,
Well, and I think as you're talking, I'm thinking about us just having this conversation, right? Like if you hadn't trusted where you were being led when you made that transition for your own self, and then maybe I didn't trust that even for this podcast to come into fruition, it was very strong. Like call it, tell people it's my passion project, but I felt very strongly to do it, right? Because
yeah,
I wanted to provide that space where people could learn to explore what are other tools they could use to tap into different possibilities for their life and get guidance from people that have made these shifts in their life. And I know we're still in the journey, right? But like it is really cool to see how when you do just really pay attention, how everything does get very interwoven and can bring you to where you feel purpose and peace. And I don't know about you, Jen, but purpose and peace is, I think, a thing that most people would say that they would like in their life, you
yeah,
know?
absolutely. And you
Yeah.
say it, I think almost every podcast, the relationship that you have with yourself is the longest one. And that's where this guidance is coming from. It's not
Yeah.
listening to anybody else at the end of the day. Again, we have to consider and we live on earth but that guiding light is from the person that knows you best, which is you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Jen, if people are like, I've just enjoyed this listening and maybe doing this exercise myself, and I really want to dive deeper, where can people connect with you at and find more about you and how they
Sure.
can connect with you?
Yeah, thank you. Website's always the easiest, and it's Jenn with two N's, Cohen, Cohen, intuitive.com. And, you can email me from that website. I'm happy to answer any questions. I've also got membership offers on there too, no matter where you are in your journey to connect with your intuition. And then just consulting one-on-one packages are available as well as channeling packages too. So reach
Yeah,
out.
and I know we didn't get to really dive in that to that too much, but maybe that'll be around too, where we can kind of come back
Yeah,
and talk a little
yeah.
bit more. Yeah,
There's so
yeah.
it's great.
Yeah, yeah, and it is really cool. I mean, guys, as you've listened to this podcast, I mean, you know that there's all different sides of us, and we have our physical side, we have our spiritual side, we have our relational side, social. I mean, there's just so many different dynamics to this human experience. But the more that we can lock into where we're feeling led and that knowing, I think can really transform the way we live. And so, Jen, I just want to acknowledge you and appreciate you for doing this work yourself to really trust that knowing and then also help other individuals trust that as well. Thanks for coming on
My
today.
honor. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and so if you're listening, I'll leave you with a little nugget that I'm just taking away, and I really think it's this, that knowing what Jen said is knowing isn't a question, it's just what is, and so if you can learn to trust that knowing, life is taken care of, and it's just hang out and see where it goes, right? And so today, I hope you take peace in knowing yourself that you're right where you're supposed to be. Until next time. That's all for today on Inspiring Possible. If you found a little inspiration today, please go on over to iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you tune in to listen to leave us a comment and rate us. Also, make sure and link up with me at inspiringpossible.com to get the free Dream It, Write It, Do It workbook. And don't forget to follow us on social media and share this with anyone who needs to be inspired. Remember, if you can believe it, it's possible.